But the one black chalice, the very first chalice that came to me, everybody, without exception, who's handled it, gets either the goosebumps or the feeling of, oh, this is weird. It's very hard to describe. It's like a buzz of energy. It's like a living object rather than a piece of stone. I mean, I know a lot of people think you're a lunatic if you start talking about things like this, but everybody who I've let handle it has got the same thing about it, that they can't necessarily describe in words what they're feeling, but they're feeling something. And I get it every single time. All this stuff is in storage out of the way. And the moment I pop open the box lid that's got this particular chalice in it, you before you even unwrap it out of the bubble wrap, you get the oh yes, okay, I know what's coming next.
So, welcome to Strange Mysterious World, Season 4, Episode 14. We are your hosts, Lee Strydom and William Collinson. Tonight's guest is a really, really cool guest, all the way from the UK. He is the renowned relic hunter and modern-day Indiana Jones. They had just a very, very awesome series, Relic Hunter. They had the Knights Templar, the Treasures of the Knights Templar is on tonight to chat about that tonight. We really can't wait. I'm so excited to hear about the stuff that he's got. And yeah, please welcome him. Let's get on with it. What do you say, Will?
Yeah, no, I'm also looking forward to it. I love the TV series on History Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody hasn't seen it, just go and watch it. It is really fascinating, and looking really forward to having him. So here he is.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
So I'm broadcasting live to South Africa, am I? I think this is the first time I've been let loose in Africa.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
Well, let's hope you don't run too much of a mucker. It's already a mess, yeah?
Well, it's interesting because I'd completely forgotten that Dominic, who was the director of the Lost Relics, he's South African. I don't know if you know Dominic Ozane. He's quite a well-known name in African TV, I believe.
Yes, okay. And so is Richard Stanley. Doesn't Richard Stanley also come from South Africa?
Yeah, I think Richard grew up in South Africa and came over to the UK when he was in his early 20s, I think. So that's as near to Africa as I've got, really. I don't know. It just seems an awful long way away from me, Africa does. I don't know why.
Well, it's only about, it's about an 11-hour flight. Catch a flight,
well,
man.
Everybody keeps telling me how good value everything is in South Africa. He said, I'll come to Cape Town, come to a good steak and wine and a big dinner for no money compared to Europe. So one of the days I'll do it. You know, there's just trying to wedge in everything in one lifetime isn't the easiest to say.
Yeah, no, sure. But when you come, let us know. We'll show you around.
I've got so many places still to do before I drop dead. You know what I. You keep buying all these projects and stacking them up, and I'll do that. And one day you wake up and 25 years of life has disappeared and you haven't actually done any of them. You know, and it's like, oh, and you suddenly realise I'd actually better get on with something or it's not going to happen. You know, so that's why the whole relic-y thing kicked off at speed for a few years. And we've just finished off working with Richard Stanley on his sort of Otto Rahn books and what he's been doing. And we just got to get on with things. It's as simple as that. You can't keep putting everything off until you retire or until you get old, because you're suddenly getting old.
Yeah, no, but the amount of books you've written, I mean, you have been extremely busy.
Okay, so take us back. Take us right back.
Take you right back. Okay. Yeah. Well, going back, absolutely hated school, couldn't stand it, total waste of my time. Yeah. Nothing I was interested in fitted in with the educational system. I was absolutely delighted to get out of school, and that was it. I've never had a job as such. I just traded and dealt and bought and collected and a bit quiet now, but you know, it was good.
Okay.
Lee, has it been breaking up
I
on your
never,
side, or has it just been breaking up on my side?
No, it's
I,
breaking up a
I
little bit.
missed that. I missed that. It jammed up.
Yeah, it just keeps on. It keeps breaking up. I don't know what's wrong with the signal. Is it us, or is it you, or is it? I don't know. It just keeps on breaking.
I've got maximum C.
Yeah,
Can
it
you hear
just
me?
yeah, it keeps coming. It keeps on coming and going.
Cut
Are you on
again.
Wi-Fi? Are you on
Yeah, I'm on
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, I hope this doesn't carry on like this. Okay, well, let's just see how it goes. Sorry. So, where did you get to, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, if we have to cut back into it, so no, I mean, well before I got let loose on the TV screens, I'd been playing around with ancient items, medieval bits and pieces. Oh, I'd spent quite a few years over in the Seychelles, which was good. I'd spent a lot of time in America. Where else had I been? I lived in the south of France for 9 years, which was great fun. That was really, really fun living down there.
Oh,
And then I got involved in this whole Knights Templar thing almost by accident. And it seems to have taken over about 10 years of my life. Oh God, I hadn't got the faintest idea what I was getting into. It all just seemed this is rather good fun, and it's a good excuse to go to Portugal and go to some other places I'd never been to. And it just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger a project. More stuff was coming to me. Then the whole TV idea was thrown at me and Carl. But I mean, neither of us had done television before, so it was a novel experience. We hadn't got the faintest idea what we were getting ourselves into. It was interesting. It wasn't quite the program I wanted to make because I wanted to do something much more focused on history and the actual artifacts and why they're important in the story of the artifacts.
Mm.
But, TV's a business, isn't it? They've got to make the programs that they can sell and people want to watch. So it just wandered off into, oh, can you play with cars? Can we drive around and do some arty shots? Which it worked very well. Everybody seemed to like it. But I just wish we could have focused a bit more on the historical importance of the stuff. Because the other thing that people aren't really aware of, out of the whole Templar horde, there was only, I don't know, 6, 8 pieces we got round to talking about. But in total, I think there's something like 140, 160 pieces in total out of the whole horde. So there's an enormous amount of stuff.
Yeah, so I must say
yes.
when I watched the series originally, uh, they mentioned the relics, and I know you were speaking to the chap right in the beginning, and he was thinking, oh, you had maybe 7, 8, and you were like, no, there's actually a lot more than that. But the whole thing
Or
about
Dan Brown.
the story was I enjoyed. Look, there was two things to it. So the first thing is the relics that you guys had collected over the years. For me, that was quite important to see because no one has that type of collection in the world. Actually, they revolved the story because it was actually around 3 relics that they revolved the whole story around. So, although I enjoyed I can't remember. I remember the sword, the chalice, and the mixing bowl. I didn't. There was no other ones that I could.
But there was that box, the box
Oh
with
yes,
cheese
yes,
and the
that's
back,
correct.
and there was geez, now the other one's getting but there was the sword, the chalice,
look, the helmet.
and a
And
helmet,
then, so for me, look, the story was nice. It was interesting because I've always been interested in the Knights Templar. I've always been interested in the whole kind of history behind it. And, I've watched many documentaries on it. But for me, the most fascinating thing about the series was your relics. And unfortunately, as you said, it didn't focus a lot on that. They were trying to focus more on the Knights Templar than actually on your relics. And I was so keen to see what you had uncovered, the rest of the stuff that was there. I understand there's got to be a history behind it. I understand there's those type of things for TV to be done, but I was so keen to see more about what the whole meaning. And I know the Nazis were looking for it, Germany. They were looking for specific relics and for obviously their specific purposes that we had. But I was so keen to see what you actually had, but they didn't show that, unfortunately.
No, totally agree. I mean, there are no Templar items surviving, really. There's architectural elements on buildings. There's monumental stonework. I mean, all over Europe and the Middle East, there's plenty of Templar actual property still surviving. But physical artifacts that can be absolutely 100% associated with the Templars and unique to the Templars, there's almost nothing. I mean, you may as well say there's nothing at all available. Long before we got anywhere near the TV, I'd done pretty much all of the museums, the archives, all around Europe, trying to find some comparable reference pieces to what I've got. And there was just absolutely nothing. There's a lot of medieval church artifacts. I mean, there's plenty of chalices, plenty of all sorts of what you called high church and religious items from the 12th, 13th century and earlier do survive, but they're generic church pieces. There's nothing specific to the Templars. And what I've ended up with does appear to be generically, absolutely specific, made to order of the Templars, with the exception of a few pieces that are Byzantine, that it appears to be 9th, 10th century Byzantine items that were probably taken at the sacking of Constantinople in 1204 and then passed into the Templars' ownership at some point around 1204 or immediately afterwards. And the nearest pieces to those, there are some in the museum at St. Mark's in Venice, and there's a few pieces in Paris that used to be the property of some of the French kings. And there are definite things that correlate between those and a sort of handful of the pieces that I've got. But the actual chalices themselves and the monumental carvings and some of the portable altars, absolutely 100% made to the order of the Templars, to their own specific design. Yeah. So it's a very, very important group of items. They're very clearly Christian. Now, whether or not the Templars were performing what we would call a standard Christian ceremony, or whether there is any truth in the fact that the Templars were doing their own separate version of ceremonies or worship, very hard to say. Because although you've got the items, it still doesn't tell us exactly how they were used. You know, it's just, it's hard when people haven't seen it. What I'm trying to do is desperately find some means of getting it out in public, either as a little exhibition of, say, maybe 20 pieces, to see if we can get support to do a big exhibition. But I mean, the long-term prognosis is I'd really like to get it out there as a complete entity. And really, that's the point where you can come and study it, and perhaps there'll be some ideas thrown in the world that haven't yet come out, that there's going to be no definite answers, because I think the actual knowledge of the subject was lost 800 years ago. You know, there was virtually nothing in the way of written evidence surviving. Yes, there are Templar records of properties of people who were interrogated and supposed confessions. This is around the sort of 1307-ish type period, up to 1314, when they ceased to exist, even by name. But what there is a total lack of is any form of documentation that relates to what they were doing in the way of ceremonies, what their initiation into the order was. The knowledge has gone, simply disappeared.
But that's also so interesting, because there's so much like myth and like esoteric kind of, like, I don't know, some of it's maybe fantasy, some of it's, you just never know what to believe. But you also had that, this so-called Templar like scholar, the guy that wrote what's his name? Dan, is it Dan Brown? What is his name?
No,
Dan.
not Dan Brown. Dan. Not Dan
on
Brown.
the show.
Dan. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about on the first series where we had that guy Dan Jones.
Dan Jones. Sorry, not
right,
Jane Brown. Dan Jones, and he was supposed to be a Templar scholar, but like he would just go to like the archives and he would just get like what was written out of the archives of the Templars, and he was like, okay, no, they he kind of poo-pooed all of the esoteric kind of like stuff we all enjoy, all the kind of like conspiracy and everything, but he kind of completely poo-pooed all of it and said, no, there was none of that, none of this. But the thing is, he's just reading documents that the people that burnt the Templars and like persecuted them, they wrote those documents. So they obviously going to write what they want to write. I mean, they could write. So we actually will never know really what happened because.
No, I mean, Dan Jones, he's very much a believer. If it's not written on a piece of paper, you can't prove it, which is an absurd thing to say because, well, how do you do anything about prehistory? How do you do anything about Celtics who had no written language? How do you do anything about Aboriginal or Native American Indian history when there's nothing written down? I mean, that's a nonsense argument. You know, so many of these cultures, and I think you'll find it in Africa with the sort of the shaman and the tribespeople of Africa. It's always been an oral history, and each tribe member will have an allocated historian whose job it is to memorize and pass on history, and that flows through Aboriginal culture, through all manner of things. So these people, and it's not only Jones, it's an awful lot of people, are totally blinkered. If it's not written on a piece of paper, it's not true. And I mean, that's just quite ridiculous. And if you've got any forms of power of deduction, you can look at items now they exist and you can make deduction or deduce things from them. In the same way, I mean, I'm not a Freemason, but I know quite a lot of Freemasons. It's an interesting topic. There isn't that much in the way of Masonic tradition written down. It tends to be passed on through the lodges, and as you go through the lodges, you're taught something else. And I think, in all likelihood, that's probably how the Templar organisation operated, that perhaps the lower people within the order were given the very basic information about what the order was doing and what they believed. And as you then made your way up through the order, I suspect you were allowed access to more intimate information about whatever secrets the order held, whatever their belief system was. And I think quite a lot of people are open to that suggestion. And I think on the basis of probability, that is what was probably going on 800 years ago. But the crux is nobody can prove it or disprove it because there is simply nothing there. The last piece of writing that you can really say is worth looking at was the Inquisitors who were documenting the Templar trials. But the problem with that, like an awful lot of things, history is written by the victors. So we have no idea if what the Inquisition wrote down had any bearing on fact.
So that's exactly what I was trying to say, yes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they made all of these allegations of worshipping devil's heads and various sort of weird behaviours in the initiatory rites. But all of these things were obtained under torture. So if you're being tortured and having your feet roasted or being dangled from the ceiling, you'll probably just say anything to stop it happening to you. So I really don't think that's any means of taking an accurate view on what they're actually doing.
But do you think Freemasonry came out of the Templars? Is that like is that what it is today?
Well, that's another subject that an awful lot of people are still discussing. I think when you go back 800 years, you've got not what you call Freemasonry today, but you've got the guilds, such as you've got the Stonemasons Guild, you've got the Armory Guild, the Goldsmiths Guild, which is still going today. And if you were a stonemason, well, there was a recognised qualification that you would get as you worked through from being an apprentice mason to a master stonemason. And people seem to forget that in that period of time, very, very few people could read or write. So if you're a stonemason travelling off to another job, well, perhaps you've been given some sort of code word or some sort of hand signal that you could then pass on to your future employer that designated how far up in the stonemason's world you were, because you didn't have references or qualifications in the way we do now.
It's like your CV. Like you do like a handshake as your CV to tell that
Yeah,
you can do the job or not.
Yeah, in a way, I think that's quite possible. And, there's debates about when modern Freemasonry came into existence. A lot of people will tell you it was 18th century. There's very clearly in Scotland quite a lot of documentary paperwork that exists in Edinburgh that certainly go back to the 16th, if not the late 15th century. And this paperwork exists. It's period documentation where it's mentioning who were the masters of the lodge, where the lodges were in Scotland. But that still does leave a 400-year gap from the end of the Middle Ages to the sort of 16th century as to, well, what was actually happening? Was there any connection or not? I haven't got the answers to it. I think it's possible to work it out. There's an awful lot of very good Masonic historians out there, and I think they'll probably arrive at an agreement at some point. But like everything, you can never get everybody to agree because someone will always claim they know better, or they'll argue just for the sake of arguing anyway. But, unquestionably, a lot of the guilds do certainly go back to the early part of the Middle Ages.
And then so there's a Timothy. I don't know if you ever heard of Timothy Hogan. Like he's claiming to be the leader. What do you call it? The main leader of the Templar. There's a Templar organization that's open today. I don't know if it's still if it's held from all the way back till today, and now they're only coming out. But he's the main leader of it. His name's Timothy Hogan. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Timothy Hogan is all over YouTube and the internet, and I believe he calls himself the Grand Master of some variant of Templar organization. There are so many different modern Templar and proto-Templar groups. I'm in one. I didn't intend to be, but I was made an honorary member of the Scottish OSMTH. Now, the worldwide OSMTH, I believe, is the biggest and oldest of all of the what you'd call the Templar revival groups. And I think they can trace their history back to roughly the kind of Napoleonic War era, give or take a little bit. So they've certainly been running as a worldwide group for about 250 years, something like that. And I think they're representative in something like 43 or 45 different countries of the world. And they're good. I've met some great Italians. The Scottish crew are good. I'm actually meeting some of the English people in a month's time to give them a little bit of a talk on the stuff I've got. But then, click onto Facebook, click onto anything. The number of Templar groups that crop up, I don't know what they claim to be or why people keep creating Templar groups. I haven't got the faintest idea, but there's dozens and dozens of them. And I have seen what Hogan does. I don't know which Templar group he's a member of. I don't know. I think he is the name that people seem to recognize because he's got the best PR and he's flooding the internet with interviews with himself.
Yeah, he says some wild stuff, he says that the Templars found the bones of Jesus when they were excavating under the the
Jerusalem.
temple.
Well, I was trying to give you the tactful answer as to why there are so many Templar groups. I mean, I find 90% of what he says is away with the fantasists. I mean, you don't know, he might be right on some things, but he just seems to want to put a very dramatic spin on everything, which is probably why he's getting the most attention and the biggest audience. Because I think a lot of listeners who aren't prepared to do the factual study, who just want to be entertained, it's far more interesting to listen to somebody coming out with these bizarre stories than it is to actually do the boring history that I tend to do.
But sorry, just one last question, Lee, and then I'll let you get back to the relics. But just because we're getting a bit sidetracked here.
No, it's all right, carry on.
But just with your Templar thing that you've been initiated into now, do you do like any kind of, like, I don't know, with the Rosicrucian order, like, I don't know, have you done any Rosicrucian stuff? Like, they do quite a lot of Eastern kind of like meditation and, you know, like sort of things to raise your consciousness or whatever, certain techniques to kind of sharpen your intuition. Like, do they teach any of that in your organization, or is it just more of like a kind of a get together, like a guys club or something?
Well, what I was made an honorary member of is the Scottish OSMTH, which I'd been asked to join various Templar groups before, and I'd never joined up because I didn't feel it was something that I could really devote much time and effort to. I've got so many other things on the go. But I was just asked, well, look, would you accept it if we made you an honorary member? And yes, I went up to Scotland and they did quite a, you know, it's quite a, not fancy, but it's quite a serious, indoctrination isn't the word, it's quite a serious introduction
ceremony
into that. It becomes quite ceremonial, but it's taken very seriously. It's not a light-hearted thing. The Scottish Order isn't enormous. I don't know how many members they've got, maybe 30 or 40, which is quite a small group, really. But they don't practice anything weird or particularly esoteric. And it's kind of left that some of the Templar groups are fundamentally Christian, but the Scottish Order isn't as fundamentally Christian, and they don't ram religion down your throat if you're not interested in it. As part of the ceremonies that they do, which I think they have 5 or 6 a year up at the little temple in Scotland, there is a religious element to it. They do have a member of the clergy who acts as their, no, I don't think they call him a vicar. I forget the word. Give me some religious terms. Not a vicar, not a priest, a prelate. Prelate, is that a word?
Yes. Okay, I know where you're going with
that. They've got somebody within the order who is responsible for the religious aspect and the people who are religious. So if you are fundamentally Christian, you can actually treat it in the same way as the knights were treating it in the 12th century. But if you're more interested in the historical aspect of it, well, that's respected, and it's okay, you don't have to do religion, but great, you're interested in the history. From what I've seen of it, probably because it's my interest, it's sitting around and talking historical facts and looking at things and going off to Rosslyn and going off to some of the significant places within the Templar world. I mean, I came back about 2 weeks ago. I've been over in Portugal for 3 weeks because a whole group of us went out and we went and did the Templar sites in Lisbon. We went up to Tomar, did the castle. Tomar is where my hoard of pieces were found in the 60s and earlier. And it was great because we had pretty much 2 weeks and there were between about 18 and 24 of us. And all we did is sit and talk medieval and talk Templars and bounce ideas. And that worked fantastically well, you know. That was really good, and we're going to try and do it again next year. So I don't know. Can you get a plane from South Africa over to Portugal? I think you probably could if you put your mind to it. You want to come along?
Yeah,
I'd love to.
Yeah. because it was great, because knowing a few of the people, I was able to get the set of keys to the castle and get everybody into some places that are normally closed to the public, which doesn't half make a difference, because quite often the most interesting things are either deliberately or accidentally hidden from the public eye. And particularly in Tomar, there's a whole gallery with some wonderful stonework in there that's got a lot of symbology on it. Similar to what you've seen elsewhere in the Templar world, but a very concentrated collection of it. And it's just interesting to walk around and be able to look at a couple of hundred stones that have never been published. Absolutely fascinating, and everybody loved it.
Okay, awesome.
Oh.
Okay, so now, Hamilton, your whole trip.
Yes.
What was your first relic of the Knights Templar? What was your first thing that you got?
It was a total accident. This is going back about 12 years now. I'd come back from America and I'd got jet lag, and I was sitting flicking through eBay in the middle of the night because I just couldn't go to sleep. And listed on eBay was what to my eye just looked like a lovely quality medieval reliquary casket, the cast iron one that was in the series. And it had only been listed on eBay for about 20 minutes when I saw it. And there was no mention of Templars or anything on it at all. It just looked like a fabulous quality thing, and it wasn't megally expensive. So, I mean, I just clicked on the buy it now button, bought it. Sent the guy the money, and it came in a box, I don't know, a week, 10 days later. And I mean, I looked at this thing, and I've handled an awful lot of medieval stuff over the years, and this was just wonderful quality. Really, really good. In the top 10% of things that you're ever likely to find. And the more I looked at it, it just confused me a little bit because I couldn't understand the imagery. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And I mean, I'd never been to Portugal. And in all honesty, I didn't know a fat lot about it. And I can't even explain, even today, quite why I did this. But I sent the bloke a message through the eBay messenger system just to say, got the box, absolutely love it. It's lovely, lovely quality. I'm going to be in Portugal next week. Do you want to have a meet up? I mean, I wasn't. I had no intention of going to Portugal at all. So I got a message back that just said, yes, I'll meet you in Lisbon for lunch on Saturday. And this was a Wednesday evening. So Thursday, I booked a flight. Friday, I got on the aeroplane to Lisbon. And Saturday lunchtime, I met this guy in a pizza restaurant in Lisbon.
Wow.
And he was... I don't know. He was obviously a very, very bright guy. He was very guarded. He didn't tell me very much. And I did ask him, have you ever heard of any Knights Templar pieces ever coming out of Portugal? Because a few years earlier, I'd heard a story about a chalice that had ended up in Switzerland, had changed hands. And it seemed to indicate that this thing had come from Portugal. And he didn't really react either way. And he brought with him a little holdall, and it had got some Roman bits and pieces. Nothing exciting, but I bought everything he'd got just to show willing. It's like, I've come this far. Yeah, appreciate you've bought some things to show me. And I just said to him, really, what interests me is the medieval period, and I like arms and armour because I've always been into arms and armour. And we just left. That was it. I didn't really know if I'd hear from the guy again. And then about 2 weeks later, he sent me an email, and it just said, I've got something for you. I can't send you any photographs. You'll have to come and see me. So fair enough. So I booked the same plane, went back to Lisbon, met him in the same pizza restaurant. Halfway through the meal, he just pulled out of his rucksack, which was under the table, and plonked in front of me the smaller of the two obsidian chalices. I
Oh
didn't.
wow.
I didn't pick it up. I just looked at it, and he said, "Oh, I've got this. It's terracotta. Oh, well, it's medieval." And I mean, I didn't even need to pick it up. That's not terracotta. I thought it was obsidian, but I wasn't entirely sure. And I got, because knowing I hadn't got the faintest idea what I was going to look at, I got money stuffed in all my pockets, like that pocket, both my trouser pockets, my back trouser pocket.
So you can bargain them down or
Well,
bargain them
well,
up.
no. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I just said, oh, I didn't even pick it up. I was looking at it, and I just said, oh, what a lovely thing. Yes, isn't that nice? Definitely medieval.
And
So,
Assyrians, the volcanic
yeah,
rock, they say like
volcanic
vol
glass.
volcanic glass, but they
Yeah.
say it's dragon glass that you
Well,
can
again,
hardly.
this is something that I didn't know at the time. I just thought, well, that don't half look like obsidian to me.
Mm.
It's got a Templar cross on it. It's a fabulous thing. And I mean, he told me how much he wanted for it. And I mean, as quick as I could, I whipped the money out of my pocket, that one, slapped it on the table, grabbed the cup, and just put it between my feet under the table, like before he changes his mind. I'm having that. So, I mean, it really was. I don't think I've ever moved so fast. And then I walked back up to the hotel and I sat on the bed looking at this thing, and I knew what it was. It's an obsidian Templar chalice. And I sat there scratching my head, and I just thought, no, 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 no. No, you must be dreaming. No, it can't be. It's just not possible. And I didn't realise, but I'd sat on the bed with this thing in my hand for 3 hours looking at it. And the next time I looked at the clock, it was time to go out and get something to eat. And I just tried everything I could to convince myself that no, 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 this cannot be a Templar chalice. It's just ridiculous. It's impossible. But no, well, it is what it is. Yep. Well, okay. And I made the decision there and then that, well, this thing is an awful lot of money. I mean, we really are talking a lot of money involved in these sorts of things. And it's like, right, I'm flying home on Monday morning. Do I pick the phone up and sell it the day I get home? And if I don't, well, this is going to be whatever weird journey and adventure this is going on. Well, you've just got to stick at it. And it was like, yeah, okay, this sounds like it's going to be fun. I think I'll stick at this and just see what happens. And 12 years later, I'm still going through it, having spent God knows how much money, the abuse I've had from all over the world, because very clearly I've either stolen it all, I've made it in my shed, it's made of concrete. I mean, you name it, I've had it thrown at me. It's
But
human
how did,
nature, and the stupidity and jealousy of humans is something like, oh, God, I never realised what I was letting myself in for. But that then started the toing and froing to Portugal, talking to this guy, and slowly he was feeding me bits of information. But what he was doing, he wasn't actually telling me anything. He'd wait until I'd worked something out myself. Then he would say, yes, that's right. Ah, okay. But he would never actually tell me anything.
wow, who is this guy?
Can't tell you.
Well, it's just the way that the world of the antiquities dealer works. And it then transpired that, well, yes, there had been an important find of stuff in the early 1960s. Yes, some pieces had gone to Switzerland, which I'd already worked out by then because I tracked down some pieces that I thought must be part of the same group because they were so similar. Then I got another garbled story that wasn't actually confirmed until last year, that there'd actually been a find made before World War II. That I thought, well, that doesn't make much sense to me. If the find was made in 60, how can there have been a find in World War II? Surely if it was found then, they'd have found everything. But no, it wasn't. There was a small find of about 10 or 12 pieces made on a separate location, but in Tomar. And it was made by a German who was an archaeologist or an archaeological enthusiast who happened to be working in Portugal in about 1937-38. And what he discovered simply was never seen. It was wafted away into the ether. And it wasn't until last year that I actually then got onto this and got told the true story of what this find was. And yes, an awful lot of people did know that it existed and it happened, but nobody wanted to talk about it because you got this slightly difficult atmosphere in Portugal. That during World War II, Portugal remained neutral, and Salazar, who was started off as prime minister, then more or less ended up as the dictator up until his death in the late 60s. He worked quite closely with the Germans both before and during World War II, and it was Salazar that invited quite a number of German industrialists to come to Portugal, run factories, build factories, and they're very uncomfortable talking about the connections of what happened in the pre-World War II days, because we're in the world of political correctness, and anybody showing the slightest interest in wartime stuff or connection with the Nazis, you get hit with the anti-Semite stick or the Nazi enthusiast stick, and people aren't. They're just interested in history. And pre-World War II Germans and what they were up to is history the same as everything else is. But it's a difficult subject and people try and keep away from it.
Yeah. So sorry, Lee, I'll give you a chance now. Just the how did you know that first cup was real? Was a real relic, or it was?
It's what I've always done. Since before I left school, I've always played around in the world of antiquities. It's hard to explain how you know things, but if you think of it, if you're a used car dealer, you can stand 20 foot away from a car and you can look at it and you'll know, right, that front wing's been resprayed, the wheel nuts have been done, the front bumper's been re-chromed, the headlights have been reprofiled. You don't need to sit and digest the car for half an hour. Your eyes so tuned into motor vehicles, you can see what's been done to it from 20 foot away. And the decent antiquities dealer will look at something and it's like, yep, that's good, or no, don't like it, don't want it.
But like in the documentary series, you had that one guy that was like a professional. He would look under microscopes and carbon date stuff
thief.
and
smuggler.
yeah, he was.
He's a very interesting character, John T. He's the science. I mean, I'd been working with him for quite a few years behind the scenes to get some scientific analysis of some of these things, because I knew full well as soon as I broke cover, you're going to get attacked with, no, it's rubbish, no, you made it in the shed. You know what's coming when you've got... The more expensive items you have, the more under attack you get. If you're finding £20 or $20 bits of rubbish with your metal detector, nobody cares what you've got. The moment you've got something really, really good, you then get branded enemy of the state. It's not just me, it's happened to lots and lots of people. So I'd had John to do some quite in-depth study as far as we could go. Because the difficult thing with anything made of stone is you can't carbon date stone. Natural materials, leathers, bone, an awful lot of substances. You can do a carbon-14 test on it that'll give you a very accurate date, more or less. But stone is one of those things that you simply can't carbon date. So what I had done, some of the pieces that had little bits of gold inlay left in them, I had the gold inlay removed. I had the surface of the materials analysed to see if there were any modern tool marks or any modern machining marks. No, everything is made by the correct method. The obsidian, as far as we were able to track it, is a type of obsidian that was available in Armenia going back to the Templar period, which that would be correct because Armenia at that point was within the sort of the kingdoms of the Holy Land when it was all divided up into separate little kingdoms. If it had come out and it had been obsidian from the Americas, then very clearly, well, it can't be, it couldn't have been period because obsidian from the Americas wasn't available in that time. But this is pure obsidian from Armenia. We did as much in the way of scientific testings of the material as it's possible to do with things made of stone. Certain things were a little bit easier because some of the stonework had got some original paint left on it. I mean, original 12th century polychrome paint. So that was quite easy to analyse, to ascertain, well, what actually is the composition of the paint? Is it all natural materials? Is there anything artificial or modern chemicals that have created the colours? And no, all of that came back with a complete bill of health that, nope, this is 12th century and it correlates with various other things that have been analysed that are found to be for the same period. And they wanted to get him on camera because he's quite an enigmatic figure. You know, he's a very natty dresser. His manner of speech he's good in front of camera. He's good entertainment, but his knowledge is superb. He's got a bad reputation because he got caught up to no good 25 years ago, and that's all they want to talk about. The fact that the guy's an absolute genius and he's responsible for some of the best restorations of antiquities that have ever been seen. Oh, well, we don't want to talk about that. We'll gloss over that because we only want to label you as a career criminal. I can see where they're getting it from, but you can't knock the guy's knowledge. It's fantastic.
And also, he's also got some very interesting, like, should I say, because it was the whole thing's playing it by the book, like it's keeping it very toned down, the esoteric, like I don't know if you would say like the out there stuff, like the conspiracies and that.
Yeah.
It was very toned down, but then there was a few slip ups, like when he was looking at that dragon with the mushroom coming out, and he was like, yeah, that's the mushroom that was supposed to be Christ, like, because the
psilocybin, the hallucinogenic mushroom.
Yes, and that's how the Christianity started. And he went off on this thing, and I was like, oh yeah, there we go. Let's get into that. That sounds so interesting. But then that was the only and then it didn't go any further. And then we carried on with the story.
Yeah. I mean, there was an enormous amount of very, very interesting footage that was filmed that you and I would have watched and thought it's fantastic because that's the direction it's going. But everything that you and I thought would be interesting was edited out. They wanted flash cars driving around, artistic-y shots at sunlight. They just didn't want to focus on how important the stuff actually was. And I mean, that little sequence with the stone, with the snake, with the mushroom, there was another stone about 6-8 feet away from it. Fascinating. A Templar cross on a flat stone. It wasn't a gravestone. It looked like some kind of marker stone. But again, it had got the same Anagalis mushrooms growing out of the base of the cross, which again, I'd never seen anything like it, but very clearly they were mushrooms. So to me, is that the indication that, yes, there was some sort of hallucinogenics used within the ceremonies? Whether there is or there isn't, it's one heck of a piece of evidence that's never been shown before. We've got a mixing vessel, so very clearly things were mixed together, or you wouldn't have a specific Templar-made mixing vessel. So it then throws up the question, well, if it wasn't mushrooms or hallucinogenics, well, what actually was being mixed up together? And they just didn't want to cover it.
And also, I mean, if you're going to make a mixing bowl like that and go into so much detail and so much care and to make it with that gold like spout, and I mean something like that, you're not just mixing some rooibos tea in that. You know, there's something
Well,
like profound you're
yeah,
gonna you're gonna be mixing in
that's
there.
it. I don't know how much of it you can see there,
Yeah.
but I mean, as a piece of craftsmanship, the amount of work and detail that's been put into that. Bear in mind, you could have just used a normal mortar and pestle that was completely just plain stone. That has
Yeah.
obviously been manufactured to be looked at and admired. So,
And something very sacred.
yes, exactly. Something that is sacred within whatever ceremonies they were doing, that was obviously a very, very important part of it. So, to me, it would be fascinating to explore well, what are the options? Why have you got these hallucinogenic mushrooms illustrated on Templar stones in the same place in Tomar where this stuff has come from? Well, what are the other explanations? If that isn't one, well, what else were you using a mixing bowl for within the esoteric world? What other ceremonies incorporate mixtures or hallucinogenics? Is there anything within modern day Masonic that it has a similar use? Is there anything within the Kabbalah or within the Rosicrucian orders that has any form of mixing of hallucinogens? I don't know, but it would be an absolutely fascinating topic to study, and you could cross-reference the Rosicrucians with Templars, with Masonic things. The scope of what you could do, it was absolutely enormous, but they just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, they didn't want to go off the deep end, you know. They kept it very tame, you know. But
Yeah, I mean, the way it was explained to me is, you know, when we got signed up, we go into the History Channel. Oh, terrific. And my natural thoughts would be, fantastic, we're in the right place. We go into the History Channel. They're going to want to focus on history. But I mean, their PR guy explained it to me that, no, we make entertainment programs that we sell. We are a business. We have to make programs that we can sell around the world. Yes, we call the History Channel, but that doesn't actually mean that we focus on anything to do with history. At the end of the day, they're a business. So, right. I wish I'd have realised that before we started filming, because I could have taken things in a slightly different direction. But by the time you're actually given the information, you've already filmed your series, they're in the can being edited, and you have no control of what's being edited whatsoever. So what comes out on the screen certainly wasn't what in my head that the program was going to be about. But, you know,
yeah,
nothing you
sure.
can do about it. And I mean, the other thing that was frustrating, the first time we were filming in Tomar, there was a JCB in the street digging some holes for plumbing. And I mean, I leapt straight into it because, well, problem number one, you're a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can't just dig holes with a JCB. Anything you're doing on site is supposed to be supervised by archaeologists. Nothing,
Shit.
no sign of anybody. There's just a JCB digging a 15-foot hole to install some toilets. So I leapt in, and and Carl we were both pulling out some interesting medieval pottery, and Carl pulled out live on camera. He actually took it out the JCB bucket as it was coming out of the
What?
ground.
That is nuts.
A fantastic medieval oil lamp. I mean, absolutely, totally complete.
What?
Yeah, totally complete. It came out of the ground live on camera. That's
Oh my
exactly what you
gosh.
want.
That
Edited it
is
out. Didn't want it.
nuts.
Didn't want it.
Oh my gosh.
When we went to Jerusalem, we got permission to film on Temple Mount, which was great. And I hadn't told the film crew, but I took a little Knights Templar seal with me that I'd got it in my pocket. So we'd done the on-camera stuff, which it was okay, but it was a bit tame. So as we finished filming, I said, right, hang on a minute. Pulled this thing out of my pocket, and again, live on camera, I said, right, this is the first time in 800 years a genuine item of the Templars has been on Temple Mount. We were standing right outside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is where the Templars were, exactly this spot. This is where they were 800 years ago, and this is the first genuine Templar item to come back since the Templars left the Holy Land.
Wow.
Cut it out,
Oh my
didn't include
gosh.
it. didn't include it. I mean, to me, it was insanity what they didn't do.
Gosh, yeah.
I
And
want to ask you. I want to ask you a question, Hamilton. Sorry, man.
Yep.
So, of the 180 art relics that you have from the Knights Templar horde, were they mostly from Portugal? Was most of the stuff actually from Portugal? And how did you track it down? Did you have to? I'm sure. Did you dig anything up at all? Did you do any excavations or?
The stuff that I was initially chasing down was the stuff that was discovered in 1960. So, I mean, I've been blamed for being a grave robber, and it's like, well, actually, that would be difficult because I wasn't born in 1960, so I couldn't really have been robbing graves before I was born. Well, again, we'll gloss over that one because that's not convenient. Yeah. But the potted history, the find that was made in 1960 was split up in the 60s. Quite a lot of it went out to Switzerland or other parts of Europe. And I've tracked as far as I can. I've tracked as much of that down. I keep thinking I've got everything, but whether I have, you don't know. There was then a separate find that was found in about 1937-38 that disappeared. That I didn't track it down. Somebody tracked me down who'd got it, and I got that as a completely separate little group of pieces. Exactly the same, beautiful quality, found in Tomar, but found in, as we say, before World War II. There was then a whole selection of interesting stonework and carvings and all sorts of things. Not all of it came from Tomar. There's a very good group of artifacts that came from Evora, which was the Templar capital city south of Lisbon, which again, that's a completely separate story, but it's the complete contents of an underground initiation chamber. I think there's about 9 or 10 pieces of stone, all in original polychrome paint. Fabulous stuff. Some of it's got chalices on it. Some of it has got Templar crosses with chalices either side of it. That was a find that was made in somewhere around 1868, 1869, when a hospital was being built. When they were digging the foundations for the hospital, they dug down into what had been the original Templar preceptory, and it had been completely sealed up until they broke into it, digging the foundations for the hospital. Unfortunately, the beneficiary who was paying for the hospital realised that, well, this is interesting stonework, we ought to dig it out and keep it. So before it was filled with concrete for the foundations, they carefully took out all of the stonework.
Oh, wow,
that's a fabulous little group of stuff. And I had a Portuguese historian over here that I showed it to. I mean, he was practically jumping up and down. He'd never seen anything like it before. But totally original. All the pieces are in original polychrome paint. Fantastic little group of... Well, it's a complete study group because it's known that Templars certainly did have underground chambers, but nothing survives that's got any evidence of carving, whereas this is the complete group of whatever it is, whatever they were doing. Here is the complete stonework from a 12th, 13th century initiation chamber. I've got all of it. So, I mean, that's a great little study group. I got a couple of pieces when I was over in Israel. I had a really good ask around again with the antiquities guys over there. And the consensus was like, nope, we've hardly seen anything that you can identify as Templar. They've all had little bits of weapons and crossbow bolts and things from the time of the Crusades, but nothing really that could be positively identified, except there was a little crucible for melting gold, which I didn't particularly need it, and it didn't really fit in with the Tomar stuff. But I bought it because, well, it is a genuine Templar artifact. It's got the same Templar cross on it. We know where it was found in the Holy Land. it's a great comparison piece that you can put on the table. Well, this was dug up just outside Jerusalem. Look at the cross form on this. Look at the cross form of these things that have been dug up in Portugal. They're exactly the same. So as a piece of reference material, it was very good.
Okay.
And I'd say the most interesting piece, I mean, people think I'm a loony when I do this, because I think there's about, say, 140, 160 pieces. And I mean, the chalices are spectacular. They really are wonderful pieces of medieval art. But the piece that interests me most sits on my desk, which looks like a little bit of nothing whatsoever. Absolutely
look at that.
nothing. It's a tiny little bit of obsidian that came out of a riverbank in Tomar, and you can just about see the remnants of a cross on it. So very clearly that indicates that pieces were thrown in the river and got broken at some point. So somewhere along that riverbank, there's probably the remnants of whatever this vessel was. So there's still something to hunt for. Okay. What interests me is what I haven't got. Once you've got it, it's almost a bit boring. But this little tiny little fragment of obsidian with a cross on it tells me that somewhere in the riverbank or somewhere down that river, there is still the rest of this, whatever this, whether it was a plate or a goblet, I don't know, you can't really tell. But it clearly proves that stuff was thrown in the river to dispose of it, probably by the Inquisition, and it's still there to find. You've just got to do it.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of stuff then, because they wouldn't have thrown just one item. They would have thrown plenty of items.
Well, that's it. It's quite possible that perhaps there was a complete set of Templar church artifacts in the church where all the Grand Masters were buried. Now, all of the graves of the Grand Masters was smashed into pieces by the Inquisition, and the stonework was just thrown, some of it outside on common land, some of it was thrown in the river. So it's quite possible that if there were any Templar vessels in the church when the Inquisition went in and started smashing it up, it's quite possible that that could be a piece of a complete unknown, unrecorded set of vessels that might still be out in the river somewhere.
So, how was it? Also, on the documentary series, were you and Carl, when you would go near the items, would say that there's like so much energy coming from them, and you'd get like goosebumps? And so, is there like some kind of energy coming off them?
Not everything. A lot of it is just stonework that I'd describe it as dead. You pick it up and put it down in the same way you'd pick up your bag of crisps for dinner or your pot noodle. It's nothing. It's an inanimate object. But the one black chalice, the very first chalice that came to me, everybody, without exception, who's handled it, gets either the goosebumps or the feeling of, oh, this is weird. It's very hard to describe. It's like a buzz of energy. It's like a living object rather than a piece of stone. I mean, I know a lot of people think you're a lunatic if you start talking about things like this, but everybody who I've let handle it has got the same thing about it, that they can't necessarily describe in words what they're feeling, but they're feeling something. And I get it every single time. All this stuff is in storage out of the way. And the moment I pop open the box lid that's got this particular chalice in it, before you even unwrap it out of the bubble wrap, you get the, oh yes, okay, I know what's coming next. It's really odd, really, really odd feeling to try and describe.
So have you used it ever for like healing, or like have you tried to heal something with someone, or have you ever had a psychometrist touch it?
Yes, Tim Wallace Murphy was a very good psychometrist, and he got a lot out of it. And there's a couple of people that I know who aren't historians by any means, but they're very, very good readers of objects. And pretty much everybody's come back with the same thing. It's very sacred. This is the most important vessel within the group. This is the one that's got the most amount of charged up energy still inside it. They can't explain why, but all quite independent of each other. They've come back with the same reading of it. And once you've handled it, it's hard to argue with it. Because, I mean, in total, I think there's, I don't know how many, 15, 16 chalices. And you can line them all up and pick them up one at a time. And if the little obsidian one is there, it's got so much energy, picking up the rest of them, you feel nothing whatsoever. It is so overpowering. It's a wonderful thing. You can just sit with it and enjoy it. Yeah, I mean...
Well, that's why you sat there for 3 hours. I was like, why would you sit there for 3 hours looking at the thing?
I mean, I've handled an awful lot of medieval items over the last 40 years. And there's one or two things, and with me it's tended to be weapons, that sometimes you'll get a sword that's got a good or bad feeling about it. And again, it's hard to describe. I've handled hundreds and hundreds of swords, and probably there's been 4 or 5 that have got something about it that's different. This chalice is like nothing I've ever handled before. It's 100 times as charismatic and charged up as anything I've ever touched before. It's just really odd.
Oh.
Really, I can't put it into words, and neither does anybody else. But everybody who's even remotely sensitive to these type of things just get it straight away. You don't have to sit and hold it for 20 minutes. The moment you got it in your hand, it's like, ooh, what's going on here? Oh, crikey.
Wow. Jeez, I'd love to try it out.
Yes. I can't come up with even a guess of an explanation why, because it defies all scientific logic. And I must admit, I do like to have an explanation of why things work. I can't even make anything up on this. It just is. Just accept it. It does what it does.
Science isn't there yet. They won't.
No, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Science can't explain what it's doing, but it's certainly doing something.
But then also when you guys went to the one temple or the Grand Masters, I can't remember where it was, and you guys stood in the middle of it. You all got all your hair stood on end. With the what?
Yes, that's the that's going to Tomar. And Tomar Castle is split into 2 parts. You've got the fortification parts, which are very, very ruined. You've got the keep and the outer walls. Then you've got the Sharolla part, which supposedly the Sharolla was built at exactly the same time as the castle. It was started in about 1160, and it took them, I think, 70 years to build the Sharolla. And that supposedly is more or less a copy of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Those that have done some research on it have decided that it's built over the top of either the intersection of some ley lines and possibly the intersection of some underground streams, because there are known to be quite a number of underground streams in Tomar on the Castle Hill, because that's where they were getting the water from. There are some quite deep wells. If you go as a normal visitor, you're not allowed to walk in and out of it. You can only walk around it. But we got the permission to take the ropes about so we could get inside it. And when you stand in the epicenter of it, as in directly in the center with the top of the dome over your head, the only other place I've been like that that's got that same feeling of energy is Rosslyn up in Scotland. And Rosslyn, if you've read a little bit about that, that's a very, very pokey place.
Wow. So what do you think? Is it like a geomancy kind of thing with ley lines, or is it just the way it's built, or would you think it's holding some kind of energy that they're imbued in the rock? Like, what do you think's happening there?
Well, I think like a lot of sacred places round the world, what we're looking at, if you bracket Tomar and Rosslyn together, is both of these places, as we look at them today, are probably built on the site of much older sacred places or places of worship. When you go back to the Celtic period, Celts had quite an affinity for water and water gods. And as people came in, when the Romans came in, they tended to adopt the Celtic places of worship and adapt them to their own beliefs and sort of assimilate into one. So Notre Dame and Chartres in France is exactly the same. There's underground crypts at both of those places that go back to the pagan days, as is Sainte Marie de la Mer down in the south of France, which is sort of the sacred to the Marianic cultures. That is also built over the top of no, I can't remember if it's a Roman or a pre-Roman site of worship. Now, whether or not that means that somehow you're getting an energy charge, but so many of these ancient places are built at the intersection of ley lines, or again built at points where rivers are crossing over. There seems to be something about the earth that has natural energy lines, and the intersections of these places do seem to carry some sort of electric energy or some earth energy that, again, I don't know enough about it to talk about it, but if you're receptive to it, you can stand there and you can feel it.
Oh, well, it's like also kind of like a Nikola Tesla kind of thing.
Yeah, so
Maybe
something like that, that somehow perhaps it's charging itself up, or it's retaining some sort of earthy bound electricity that Mother Nature is generating. I don't know. It is doing something, but I certainly don't know, and I don't know if science has got an answer for it again at the moment. But it's an absolutely fascinating subject. And when you take people who've never experienced it before, who think you're a bit of a raving lunatic, and actually sort of physically move them, right, you stand there for 30 seconds, don't speak, don't do anything, just stand there. And then all of a sudden, it's like somebody's turned the light bulb on for them and they get it. It's like, whoa, oh, wow, what's going on here? I can feel it, and you'll feel it.
that's
Something
so
coming,
cool, man.
yeah, you'll feel something coming up your spinal column that is just like, it's like being plugged into the mains. Until you've experienced it, it's an impossible thing to try
But I
and
mean,
convey.
you should I mean, if you sat there for like a few hours maybe and meditated, you'd probably like become enlightened or something.
Well, I think that was the purpose of some of these pagan sites. Like in England, we've got Stonehenge, and an awful lot of places in Europe. You've got these enormous stone circles and menhirs and monoliths. And again, these places do seem to be reported as having energy centres, and perhaps that's what they were built for. Maybe the general public, going back 5,000 years, 10,000 years, maybe that's what it was all about, that you all gathered around this sacred place and you recharged yourself, or you were taken to a place that was perceived as being religious in some way, because the energies that were being released were very, very different to every other field in the country. I don't know. I really don't know, but
Oh,
it's just fascinating to go and
and then
experience it.
and nowadays we just sing hymns and eat pieces of wafer.
And give you money to the Catholic Church. Yeah. I don't get it. You know, the Catholic Church stand there telling you that everybody's starving and you need to give them all your money. And the bloke who's telling you is living in a solid gold palace, wearing a crown and carrying an enormous gold cross. Well, why don't you sell your gold crosses and your gold houses as opposed to asking everybody else for money? You know, I can see some
Yeah.
anomalies there that don't. That's why I don't do religion. It's fascinating if people get something out of it. It's great, but it's really not for me. I don't feel I
But
need
but
it.
but I think we should be go sitting in those little spots where the energy is going up your
Totally
spine and like chilling there for that sounds like a church to me that I want to go to.
correct. It's the Church of Mother Nature, and you can go and sit there on your own. You don't need somebody giving you a lecture or reading a sacred book. You can go and take in Mother Nature, and if you get something in return, it's very real. You can see it, you can feel it yourself. You
Oh, that's amazing,
don't
man.
need it's a wonderful thing. And
I want to really
again,
experience that.
the whole Rosicrucian thing and the Kabbalah and some of the more ancient belief systems, maybe that's what they're centered on. It's the improvement of yourself, that you can just go and study and meditate, or sit in some of these wonderful places, and that's how you get nearer to your own Holy Grail or get nearer to God. I don't really know, but that's far more appealing to me than sitting in a rather dull Catholic church.
Exactly.
Yeah, Hamilton, last question from my side, man. In your entire collection, so I'm not just talking about the Knights Templar stuff, I'm talking about your entire collection. What is the oldest artifact that you have?
I've got some meteorites. I mean, again, something I got involved with by accident when I met some Russians when I was living down in the south of France. And they were the guys who used to go out to Siberia for about 3 months of the year, searching for either mammoth tusks, fossils, or meteorites. And some of the meteorite pieces I've got are probably, somebody did tell me the Russian ones are about 4 billion years old.
Sure.
Wow. Are these the ones that you rub together like Richard Stanley, and then the blood comes out of them and it heals it's like the philosopher's stone or whatever?
You'll have to talk to Richard about those stones. I'll give you an introduction. I was talking to Richard yesterday about the Otto Rahn and what we're doing there.
Okay.
The stones that are found only in the part of France that we sort of generally refer to as the zone or Occitania, they're very peculiar. They look like rounded river pebbles. And if you just moisten one of them and then rub them together, the stone starts to leak out like a funny orangey coloured liquid. It looks like liquefied rust. And it's supposed to have healing properties. I don't know if it does or not, but Richard says he's used it on skin ailments, and he put some in his mother's eye when she had sight problems, and it seemed to do something.
What did she have? And it healed her.
Well, it made it better. Now, I don't know if that means a painkiller or whether it actually cured the problem. I don't know. But I mean, Richard really is the person to talk to about that. The meteorites. No, a meteorite. Hang on a minute. Give me a sec. I did have one. Right, that's only a little piece. That was just sat on my shelf. Now,
wow, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's from Siberia, from an explosion and meteorite impact that happened in 1947, which I think is called Psychedelic, if you Google it. And this is, I don't know whether you can just about see.
It looks like metal. It looks like melted metal. It looks like something out of the Terminator when he melts down and he...
Well, that's what it is. These variants are pretty much chemically iron, but bearing in mind it's a form of iron that's been travelling through the universe, and it's been white hot for probably several billion years. So it's so hard and dense that I mean, you can drill it.
Is that Atlas 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, fascinating stuff. And I mean, this has been cleaned up, but it's a kind of iron that's so dense it hardly rusts. When they dig it up out in Siberia, bear in mind it's been buried in boggy land since 1947. If it was a normal piece of iron, it would have rotted away to nothing. But this stuff is so dense, the quickest wipe over with a little bit of wire wood brings it up to bright iron. And it's just very tactile stuff. I've had a lot of pieces of it. And it's just another fascinating subject.
Jesus,
I don't really collect it as such, but I accidentally ended up with a great box full of pieces, and I've got some big slices that I've got mounted up. And by a very, very long way, that's the oldest stuff I've got, I would say.
So, and aren't you worried about your safety sometimes with all of this very valuable stuff you have at the moment? And like after the show, the documentary series, I mean, everybody knowing that you have it, isn't that quite dangerous?
Well, I keep the stuff very well hidden. I never keep it at home. It's distributed all over the place. My military collection, because I've got an awful lot of World War II stuff and a lot of stuff that relates to the Holocaust, because I've been working over in Eastern Europe for quite a long time collecting up difficult subject matter, the stripy jackets and the concentration camp things. I've got a very big collection of that. My safety doesn't worry me, to be honest. I've always taken the view that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We're on Earth for as long as we need to be on Earth for. And if I check out tomorrow, so be it. That's when I'll be going. Nothing I can do about it. So I don't worry about it.
Okay, wow.
Same fault I have.
Yeah, if I started going through half of the things that I've done, you would think, you complete idiot. What the hell do you think you were doing walking around the Ukraine with $100,000 in cash in a bag? It sounds lunacy, but it was just what you did. And I just always thought, well, it's what I do. You take as many precautions as you can. When you're traveling around, you develop common sense. And if you're walking around at night, you get a feeling of what streets you shouldn't be walking down and where it's safe to be. And I think you also get a good reading on people very quickly. I mean, I've been out in places where I've arranged to meet someone, and when they've shown up at the hotel, within 20 seconds, I've just gone, no, no thanks, don't need this. Something flags up, or you don't feel comfortable. I'm still here, so my method works. Until I'm not here, then you can say, what an idiot that bloke was. What a cretin. Then I've got it wrong. But at the moment, I'm still here and laughing, so I'm not too worried about it.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay, chaps, I will leave you in peace.
Thanks so much. All right.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, so amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that was great. Loved it. I can't wait to get into the Templar stuff, man. There's so many things like that I want to ask about the Templars. So that's I'm excited about that. Especially, something that's so knowledgeable and is actually part of one of the Templar things, and be interesting to see. But that was great. Cool.
Yeah, cool, man. That's it for Strange Mysterious World for tonight, and we'll pick up again next week with our next episode. Thanks everyone for listening. Like and subscribe when you've got a chance, and we'll have a good evening.
Thanks,
we'll
Steve.
see you
Cheers, guys.
next week. Thanks, man. Cheers.